Yeah, we're not talking about chihuahuas today.
Yeah, so we're actually here, wow, after 2 years. Okay. Okay, so.
So my name is Rafael. As you can see, we are married, so this is going to be really fun. It's the first time that we are actually dividing a stage together. So let's see what happens at the end. But I mostly focus on QA and DevOps and how those things work together, and mostly on transforming the culture of those things. So we're not talking about tools, we're not talking about frameworks, but we are talking about something that most of the people here are talking about today, changing how we do things through culture, to leading our teams.
Yeah, so I have been working with quality since forever. Actually, it's my first child. And for us, culture is the most important thing, and quality. It ties everything together, so.
Yeah, so you're gonna hear something that a lot of people already said today, that we need to take small steps. Don't get overwhelmed, because we're gonna talk about a lot of things, and if you try to do everything at the same time, you're not gonna do anything. So the whole idea here, when we talk about getting quality as a mindset and instilling that into your team, you need to make sure that we start with a really small habit that you don't do today or that you do in a different way, that you make sure that that habit of quality gets increased by the minute, by the week, by the sprint, every time that you go do something. And that every time that you do something, quality is in your mindset. Also, as you build up, you need to make sure that you break things apart, because if you build up adding, it will get too large and you will lose sight of your objectives. And when we sleep, because if something goes wrong, we're all making changes. We are afraid of change, and sometimes we get things wrong. We need to go back to the plan. We need to review the plan. We need to make changes to the plan. So get used to making changes to changes and to the transformation itself. And you need to be patient. So we are all leading teams, and if we don't have enough patience with the team, they will get scared of change. They won't focus on quality. They will get tired of always doing the wrong thing at the wrong time and not addressing the real issue or preventing the real issue. And what is built-in quality itself? It's the idea of lean management, where you do the right thing at the right time, and at everything you do, at every step, you make sure that you have quality in mind. So the idea is proactively applying the quality principles and having quality in mind to not only identify, but also to prevent issues, and making sure that you are addressing the issues in an organized way until it becomes organic throughout the team. Also, we are going to talk a little bit about SAFe, and the idea is that SAFe says that quality needs to be scalable and streamlined. So that's why we always say, do quality at everything you do in every step of the way. And quality needs to be within everything we do to make sure that we also, while preventing issues, we are fostering continuous improvement and continuous testing throughout our day-to-day.
Yeah, so this is really important, because when we talk about quality, we're not talking only about testing or something. This must be instilled in everything we do, every little action, every little breath we take. All this is built-in quality.
So why we need to do that? And we're pretty much saying, stop doing quality and testing and whatever you're doing to make sure that you are doing things right, different from what we have been doing in the last 20 years. Because the way we are doing it doesn't work with the complexity of the systems that we have, with the amount of customers that we have, and with the scale that we have today. So to make sure that we have team satisfaction, client satisfaction, that we have improved velocity and predictability, we need to make sure that quality will be ingrained in everything we do. So that's why built-in quality is something so important, and that it will help us improve our ability to innovate, scale, and make sure that we are compliant with our requirements, whatever they are. If they are agile, if they are non-agile, we need to make sure that everything we do collaborates to prevent issues and address those issues in a continuous manner.
So when we talk about the built-in quality, we are talking about 5 dimensions. So we are talking about flow, And when I talk about flow, I'm talking about testing first. Testing first enabled by continuous integration and quality. And we talk about code quality, unit testing, TDD, pairing, code review, code standard. I'll talk about all of this in further details later. And we talk about release quality with a scalable definition of done. System quality with BDD, continuous integration, MBSE, and architecture and design quality. So all of these dimensions need to be taken in place. So all of this needs to be really taken care when we talk about built-in quality. So when we talk about flow, what is flow? So flow, we need to ensure that we are progressing throughout our life cycle without stopping. So when we pull the card, when we're talking about agile development, when we pull the card from the backlog, we are ensuring that it's progressing how it should be progressing. So this is the flow that we are talking about. And when we do this good flow, that means I'm just pulling what it needs to be pulled, and it goes without any stopping. So, and we need to do this, and as early as I get this, I need to start to consider the quality. So, and that's when we start to talk about the shift left. So everyone knows about the V model. This is something that we are well aware. And everyone heard about the shift left. So what we are saying is that we need to, as soon as we start to write the feature, to test the feature. So we are talking about to have the feedback really early. So everyone, again, knows about this, that if I find the bug in production, it will cost 140 times more than the one that I find in the story, in the requirements phase. So that's why we need to consider a lot about the shift left. So we need to go and to do the BDD, and we need to consider with the feature test with the BDD, the story test with the BDD, and to consider the code test as well. And we need to consider always to use the test pyramid. So what I'm saying when I say about the test pyramid, we need to automate as much as possible when I say about the unit testing. And then I go to the component test, the integration testing, and I don't repeat the testing itself. So I have the larger, the base with the automation for unit testing, and I don't have the anti-pattern. Rafael will talk about this later. And also, I need to ensure that my pipeline, continuous delivery pipeline, is always on. So every time I merge my code, I run my testing. So I have my feedback as early as possible and release on demand. When I talk about code quality, what does that mean? That I need to do the code is a collaborative effort. Ownership is shared. The code is not only the responsibility of developer or the testing or the QA. So all we talk about is quality, is the whole team-based responsibility. So this is really important to share. And unit testing, again, is a must. We need to always to consider unit testing. So we have the TDD, and we have a reliable code, and then we are always having this tested. So if we have a code quality, we have the decrease in dependence bottlenecks, and we have less issues, and therefore we can achieve quality. So this is what we are aiming for when we talk about code quality and code review as well. When we talk about release quality, and this table, this is the dream come true, okay? And as Rafael said, let's consider baby steps. So the habit, we start small. But this would be the definition of dreaming, because we have here the team increments as definition of them. So if we could have all of this would be the DOD for the team. And then we have the scalable definition of them. When we continue progressing for the system increment, we should progress for a more robust definition of them for the system. And then we continue progressing for the solution increment and for the release increment. So we need to worry about the right work at the right time. This is what's really important. So the definition of done adapts to reflect exactly where we are in the moment where we are. When we talk about the architecture and design quality, so one thing that is really interesting is we start doing the walking skeleton. So we start to build what we need, the least viable we need for the architecture. So we start to building all the risks at first. So we have the high risks first, no shortcuts, and fast feedback. This is really, really important. And also, we need to have evolutive architecture. So we need to architect for build, test, and deploy, and it cannot be immutable. It must be evolutive, and it must be able to change, because things change always.
Exactly, yeah.
So we need to design system, and also we need to have some kind of set of standards so we are able to design at scale in order to reduce the redundancy. And when we talk about the system quality, we need to ensure that alignment and shared understanding is key for all of us, so we can reduce developer delays and rework. Again, BDD is key here. Why BDD is so important? Because we need to have a standard way to write the behavior of the system. So this is why it's so important, the collaborative and common language. So BDD is not a language. BDD is not some...
BDD is not only for automation, because when we say BDD, people are like, oh, we're going to do test automation. And it's much more than that. BDD needs to be something that we'll use for having a common language to make sure that when we say something about our system, people will get it and people will understand it. And they will always know what we are talking about. And we're talking about behavior. So it's not what the system does, it's actually what's the behavior of the system.
And it's not only for developers. BDD is for the PO as well, and for the team members, and it's done for the story and for the feature. And we need to have the CI and CD practices well established, so we can have the fast feedback. And the continuously check, we will have always check for conflicts and errors at system level. This is why this is so important. So we have CI/CD. We are able to automate all the tests that are able to be automated. Again, we need to have the couple tests to be automated, and then we have all the exploratory and usability testing manual. So we automated what needs to be automated, not everything.
Yeah, and now we go to practical advice. So all that is very nice, but how can I change my organization or my team? So first thing is quality is everyone's responsibility. If you are an engineering manager, if you are a developer, if you are a product owner, or whatever the name of you have on your team, the quality is responsibility from the team. And that's something we have been saying for a while within agile practices, but when we are in the day-to-day, in the real world, not always that happens. So we need to make sure that the team understands that quality is a mission for everybody. So that's why we say it's going to be in everything we do. And to be able to do that, we need to stop testing like those major groups of codes and releases, but we need to make sure that we are testing small, frequent, and using code review to make sure that as first as we have the code ready, or as someone is start working on the code, at some way, we're going to be testing that code. If it's by the code review process, if it's by the linting process, or whatever the process that you have. And again, you don't have to have everything at the same time, but you need to make sure that as code grows, or as you get code done, you need to make sure that you are testing that code and make sure that it has the necessary quality to move forward. Also, we're going to talk about test automation, but forget about just testing automation at the end-to-end level with those big frameworks and Selenium or whatever. You need to make sure that you empower the test pyramid. So you need to focus on unit testing and integration testing, and you go up to the pyramid until you get to the end-to-end testing. And then you can say, okay, but I'm already working on a big project or in a big system, and I already have all this bunch of tests that I already have, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw them away. No, you keep what you have, but you start working on the other end of the pyramid and making sure that you have the unit testing, the integration testing, and everything else to make sure that you have early feedback, that your team knows real fast and real quickly when they have a problem with their code base. And quality needs to be the kind of the byproduct of testing a given functionality or product throughout time, and not something that you do in a specific time or only once. Quality needs to be an incremental exercise of the same product. So do you know what your product is? Do you have a series of sprints and iterations? And how can you keep doing quality throughout those cycles? And also, we need to make sure that we make mistakes as soon as early and possible. So if you want to try something, try something. Make sure that your team understands that they can try something different, that they can do quality in a different way as soon as they can. They collect feedback, they understand what went wrong, what worked out successfully, and then they learn from that process. And also, user journey, what your user or your customer does on your system needs to be a byproduct and result of how you develop software or how you test your software and how you apply quality to your software. It's not the way around. It's not the other way around. I can't just do quality and then get something to my user. I need to be focused on my user journey and what he's going to do and how he's going to behave within my system to make sure that I'm doing the right thing at the right time and that I'm applying quality at the right thing at the right time as well. And also, one of the most important things that we're going to say today is, again, QA and quality is not a who effort, but a we effort. So QA, the team or whoever owns that domain within your organization needs to be the one that builds and fuels quality and testing throughout all these steps of your software development lifecycle. So he's going to be the one that's going to be one of the champions for code review. He's going to be one of the ones that is going to look at the rules for code review, or going to help with unit testing, or going to help get feedback from the user. It needs to fuel quality as a mindset throughout your organization. And always, quality and testing is small and always. So we're going to use BDD, we're going to use code analysis, we're going to use unit testing. QA needs to be a continuous feedback loop connected to your CI/CD practices. Oh, but I don't have CI/CD yet. Well, that's fine. Just make sure that you have continuous feedback on whatever you have, and that will be a form of quality. You need to be able to automate checks and small tasks or tasks that you have throughout your feedback cycle. So if there is some repetitive thing that you do every time to build your code or to validate your code, make sure that gets automated. Also, doing that, we will be able to prevent issues and not only identify issues. Because if we identify the issue is already there and we're going to have to fix it. More important is to be able to prevent issues. So we need to shift left, trying to validate things first and as early as possible, but also right, looking at the operation, looking at whoever is using our software and getting feedback from those guys. And quality needs to be a continuous improvement through ops and user feedback. So we talk a lot about DevOps and looking at the operation, but we need to understand to be able to collect their feedback and understand how exactly our system and our team works in production, in the environment that people are actually using. And software development and quality needs to be tools to build our user journey and experience so we can achieve the satisfaction and experience that we mentioned before. And again, if we are talking about testing as early as possible, we have to came out of the anti-partner where we have this bunch of end-to-end tests, a lot of automation that takes forever to run, or it starts getting false positives, or everything is haywire, to a common goal where we focus on getting as much tests as in the base as possible, using unit testing, using TDD, and then we go to the integrations and we make sure that everything connects together. And it's fine if you are in the anti-partner right now. You have to have a common goal with your team to make sure that you migrate into the better scenario. And again, we have a little picture here that says test everywhere, every time. So you test when you're planning. So when you're writing your features, you make sure that you validate everything, that everybody understands what we need to do. You test when you branch code. You test when you code. You test when you merge code. You test in production to make sure that when you code got to production, it keeps working successfully, or it's still doing what it's supposed to do. So you're going to have every different way of testing that code, or what do you do in each of those phases. So the idea is that you make sure that you have at least one check in each of those steps. And manual testing, it still exists, but it should be focused on exploratory testing, something that will try to do something different from what you have been done on the other steps already. And it needs QA, and quality needs to be more than just one guy. It can't be John or Ricky or whatever his name is. It needs to be something that the team understands, and the team understands the importance and why we are looking at quality in everything we do. We need to be the example. We need to say, okay, I would rather take another sprint to deliver something, but making sure that I deliver in the right way to the right people. And testing can come in many forms. So even if you are using a code review, or if you are testing unit testing, or if you are checking if a story has all the necessary items that it needs to happen, that it needs to have, that's fine. That's testing as well.
And to lead the team to this built-in quality journey, it's culture first. Then you can think about tools, then you can think about frameworks, but it's all begin with the culture. So how we begin with culture? We start small, and we start thinking all of this that we have talked so far, and we apply automation to low-value tasks, not only testing. It's not only about unit testing, automation, and component testing, but also to data or to any low-value tasks that you have. And also, we need to be able to identify where are the bottlenecks, and to show this to our team, to always keep on continuous improvement.
Yeah,
so
we need to make sure that we always ask why we are doing something. And the usual question, the usual response that we get is, because we have been doing that forever. It's like 5 years and we have been doing that always. But yeah, I understand why you have been doing that way, but we need to be able to change and make sure that people focus on quality. We need to ask why we are doing that, why that matters, and making sure that we bring data. We need to understand where we are. So how many defects do we have? How many tests we do? What is our test pyramid? And make sure that we have a baseline so we can move from there. Because if you don't have a baseline, you're not going to know if you change your culture or if you are doing things differently from what you're doing before.
You need facts, you need data, always. So you cannot show progress without data. And also normalize feedback, normalize communication we have been talking about. We need to have feedback, and this needs to be okay. Feedback cannot be terror, horror.
Yeah. And we have a case that we were working with a client that we were going to talk with the QA guy or a development engineer, and we asked a question, and he was like, well, I have to check with my manager first if I can reply to your question or if I can give you the details. Your team needs to feel that they are safe to either have the data, even though if the data is bad, if the data is not good, but to make sure that you are with them and leading them by example, to make sure that you want to improve, that you want to go to a better place.
And small victories. We need to start with those small victories will compound throughout time. And the small victories will result within the big change later on. So that is okay. The small victories will result in big change. And we need to start with those. And this is fine. Any transformation starts with small victories and will require big empathy with us as leaders and with our team as well to lead to this culture change. And with the culture changing, we'll have better quality, we'll have better products, and we'll have the better user experience as well.
Yeah, so and we can also think, okay, I went to LeadDev, Rafael and Larissa said all those nice things about quality, and I'm going to just give my team the presentation, said, go do this thing. This is not a project that you do. This is not a DevOps project that you do. This is not a project that you do. This is something that you need to go to your team. You need to be open to feedback, and you need to understand why your team is not doing or is not focused on quality right now. What are the barriers? What are the difficult things that they are trying to do? Because in some cases, they are trying to do some of those things. But either they have a problem, or they have an obstacle, or it's a process, or whatever it is. So we as leaders, we need to go to the team and have a kind of the empathy of understand that sometimes we are the problem, or sometimes we are not helping as we could to make sure that the team is able to do those things.
And this is a journey. So it will change tomorrow. This is a long journey, actually.
It is. And again, it's not expected for you guys to, I'm going to do all those things at next month and start doing things differently. Understanding your organization, you guys lead organizations and teams. You know where the biggest bottlenecks or the biggest problems are, especially regarding quality. So you need to make sure you understand what are those things and exactly which of those actions, if it's unit testing, if it's change the way you put together your features, or if it's having code review or whatever the action is, make sure that you select the one that is going to benefit your team more. Even if it's as simple as changing a process, or if it's changing how the team delivers code, or even if it's some cases getting a tool or a framework, even though we say it's not about the tool or the framework, but in some cases, a small investment in some cases can help your team break a barrier or move forward in a faster way.
Yeah, one good way to start is to brainstorm, understand with your team together what are the ways, and see the value, the impact, and what is the easiest way to start, and pick some quick wins and start from there. The quick wins are the biggest ones and the most important ones.
Yeah, and I think the greatest message here is, as we said about small habits at the beginning, Usha also talked about small steps. So really focus on the small steps. And if you fail at the first, don't worry about it. Try and get better on track and try and get things better as we move forward.
And so?
And that's it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.